Imagine not knowing where you're going, nor the safest way to get there. Think about having to drop your pride daily and beg from people you can't even see. Can you even process experiencing each day in total darkness? Well, in today's message, I'll be sharing a familiar story about a blind beggar whose life went from total darkness and he came into the light instantly. If we're meeting for the first time, I'm Donnice Tabor, pastor of Divine Church in Metro Atlanta, where we believe it's all about His will, His way, His word. Let us now receive this short but thought-provoking message. Luke, the 18th chapter, verses 35 through 43. And it came to pass that as he was come nigh unto Jericho, a certain blind man sat by the wayside begging. And hearing the multitude pass by, he asked what it meant. And they told him that Jesus of Nazareth passeth by. And he cried, saying, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And they which went before rebuked him, that he should hold his peace. But he cried so much the more, Thou son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus stood and commanded him to be brought unto him. And when he was come near, he asked him, saying, What wilt thou that I shall do unto thee? And he said, Lord, that I might receive my sight. And Jesus said unto him, Receive thy sight. Thy faith hath saved thee. And immediately he received his sight and followed him, glorifying God. And all the people, when they saw it, gave praise unto God. In today's text, Jesus and his disciples are approaching Jericho with a large crowd following. As they walked, a man was on the roadside begging. While it's reasonable to believe that he was begging to receive some daily necessities such as food, clothing, or money, it's totally clear that he was begging also for mercy. You see, he starts out in verse 35 begging, but some 7 verses later, he's found believing. With all of this in mind, I want to witness to you today from this thought, from beggar to believer. For those biblical scholars watching who read and study for yourselves, I feel the need to mention that today's story can be found recorded in the first 3 books of the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. The first 4 books of the New Testament are known by many as the Gospels. If one were to read each account, they would find what appears to be 2 clear discrepancies. The 2 apparent conflicts are the location of the event and the number of blind men seeking mercy and a miracle. The simplest explanation might just be what normally happens in the ordinary storytelling of an event. The prominent person is often the only one mentioned. Nevertheless, I've been led by the Holy Spirit to use Luke's documentation of this event for today's message, from beggar to believer. Here in today's lifted text, Luke records an event about a man interacting with the master. The name of this man is not provided by Luke. However, Mark mentions his name. Mark identifies this man by the name of Bartimaeus. You remember the story opened with Jesus, his disciples, and a large crowd heading into Jericho, where Bartimaeus was hanging out by the roadside and he was begging. Not only is he a beggar, but we also learn that Bartimaeus has a disability. And that is simply to say that he has a physical condition that limited his movements, senses, and activities. The word states he's blind. Can you even imagine? The only places you're able to go are those that you discover by touching and feeling your way. The only way you have any idea how another person looks is by asking to invade their personal space and to feel their face. Every moment of every day, total darkness. The feeling of loneliness, although you know you're actually not alone. As I studied this text, it became apparent to me that Bartimaeus didn't allow his disabilities to hinder his other abilities. Yes, he had no sight, but he had sound. You see, verse 36 says, and hearing the multitude pass by, he asked what it meant. This brings me to the first thing I noticed seeping from this text. He sought information. While he did not see, he focused on what he did. He didn't focus on what he didn't have, but instead he focused on using what he did have, his hearing. When was the last time we focused on our abilities, the do-haves, and not our disabilities, the don't-haves? Okay, I hear some of your thoughts perhaps becoming audible, and you're saying, what disabilities? While it may be that you don't obviously have a physical disability as Bartimaeus, may I suggest that sometimes we're crippled by sin. We're blinded by disobedience or a lack of prayer. These can lead to a lack of faith, which perhaps has limited our ability to move forward in our Christian walk. Looking back, Bartimaeus, he's blind, a beggar, poverty-stricken, helpless, but he's also found to be hopeful. Verse 37, which says, and they told him that Jesus of Nazareth passes by. Listen at what happens next. And he cried, saying, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. The second thing I noticed leaking from this text was he used communication. I stated earlier that Bartimaeus didn't allow his disability to hinder his other abilities. It's true, he couldn't see, but he could hear and he could speak. Verse 38 says, and he cried, saying, Jesus, thy son of David, have mercy on me. I can't help but wonder, what abilities do we currently possess but are not using? Therefore, we're often found in the presence of God, begging God for new things when in fact we're not making use of the things he's already given. Shame on us. When was the last time we've cried out to the Lord seeking his mercy? Someone watching may be asking, what is mercy? I would answer and say it's God's compassion and kindness that he shows towards each of us. My pastor, Pastor Jerry D. Black of Beulah Missionary Baptist Church in Decatur, he would say mercy is this: God not doing unto us what we deserve to have done to us. In other words, God's pity he shows towards you and me. Bart, listen at him. Jesus, thy son of David, have mercy on me. And the next verse 39, which says, and they that went before rebuked him, that he should hold his peace. And he cried out the more, thy son of David, have mercy on me. You see, Bartimaeus refused to allow criticism of the crowd to dampen his communication with Jesus. What's the takeaway? Never, ever allow the crowd to drown you out. The third thing I noticed pouring from this text was his transformation. He desired to come out of the darkness that he had grown accustomed to because of his blindness, to seek the light of Jesus, that he might forever be able to see. The word says in verses 40 and 42, and Jesus stood, commanded him to be brought unto him, and when he was come near, he asked him, saying, what wilt thou that I shall do unto thee? And he said, Lord, that I might receive my sight. Verse 42, and Jesus said unto him, receive thy sight, thy faith has saved thee. When Jesus calls us to come to him, we must immediately drop anything that would weigh us down or identify us with our past and be prepared to let him know what our desire is for our future. And as we can see in this text, it can happen quicker than right now or even sooner than right away. What an amazing transformation. However, I believe the takeaway here is this. We can have or we can experience sight without light, but we cannot experience light without sight. The final thing I noticed flowing from this text was others received revelation. Verse 43 says, and immediately he received his sight and followed him, glorifying God. And all the people, when they saw it, gave praise unto God. In closing, please remember, it was actually Bartimaeus' persistence, his perseverance, and his praise, all of which I believe that were activated by his faith, that caused him to transform from beggar to believer.